On April 23, 1914, the Chicago Federals played the first game in Weigman Park. Since 1916, the Cubs have inhabited what's now known as Wrigley Field.
I've been going to Cubs games for a little bit over 40 years.
40 years. A little over 40.
I was 5 years old.
Oh, since I was a young lad.
Oh, since 1941.
Fans flock to the Centennial game on April 23rd, as much for the ballpark as for the team that plays in it.
The ivy, I mean, everything, the greenery. I mean, look at this atmosphere.
Just being here, even being in upper deck, being close to the playing field, the atmosphere.
I love the atmosphere around, not only in the park, outside the park. I don't even have a ticket for today's game.
It's just precious and very memorable for me. That's why I had to come today.
But the game ended on a sour note. The Cubs blew a ninth-inning lead and lost 7-5. A fitting day for the tortured franchise. The Cubs have famously been without a championship for the whole century that Wrigley Field has stood. Brian Bernardoni is an award-winning researcher and a Wrigley Field tour guide. He knows the park as well as anyone.
I've worked for the Cubs for 17 years. I went to do my first tour in 1998, and I knew as much as the tour guide did.
He's still struck by the park's history.
America is a throwaway society. There's very few things that are lasting, and I think in this country we allow for that. But Wrigley has managed to stay throughout.
Wrigley is more than just the Cubs' home. It's a true Chicago landmark.
You know, Wrigley's had everything from baseball and football and hockey to wrestling, rugby, ski jump competitions, political conventions, religious revivals.
So the building holds a lot of different memories.
Oh, my best memories, I don't know, but one of them I can't forget is that World Series when they were playing Detroit in 1945.
Favorite moment was Ryne Sandberg hitting a home run in the first inning of the first night game, the game that got rained out. Sammy Sosa's 60th home run, the Sandberg game, Ben hit them all.
Chicago Bears game, 1963 when I was 7 years old. My dad took me to the championship game right here. That's probably number one. I can't pick any Cubs championship games. I'm trying to remember. No.
That history can be a blessing and a curse. The Cubs are under a relatively new regime. Chairman Tom Ricketts and his family bought the club in 2009. He hired Theo Epstein to run the front office in 2011. Part of their plans include aggressively modernizing Wrigley Field. But renovating a historical landmark creates red tape and political disputes. Stuart Shea is another author and historian. He's written the book on Wrigley.
My first Cubs game was in 1971, and came with my father and my brothers and a family friend. And I was sort of in love with the field from the very first time I saw it.
Like most Chicago baseball fans, he has strong opinions.
There are a lot of things that they want to do, and I'm not sure if all of them are for the good of the ballpark, but I'm sure that they'll only be done if they're good for business.
But baseball is a business at the end of the day. The Cubs, going back to the 30s, have lost billions of dollars in revenue that could have been generated by using some of the basic things that they're asking for today.
Those changes include a giant jumbotron, other advertisements and video screens, and a hotel across the street.
I realize that they have a right to monetize their property. That said, I'm not crazy about the idea of the jumbotron or the big scoreboard. I think you'll lose the sweep, you'll lose the view, you'll lose a lot of what makes Wrigley different.
But many people think the Cubs need that added revenue to be competitive.
I would argue, and have argued in front of the Chicago City Council, that if P.K. Wrigley had known that by planting the ivy in 1937, he would be foregoing millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars in advertising and profit, I wonder if he would have planted that ivy if someone had asked him that question.
And the Cubs can't count on ticket revenue to balance the whole budget. As loyal as Cub fans are, and as popular as Wrigley is, the Centennial game didn't even sell out. More than 20% of the seats sat empty. Since the Cubs' last playoff appearance in 2008, attendance has dropped in 5 straight seasons, and the payroll has been slashed from $146 million in 2010 to less than half that in 2014. The fans are getting restless.
Because at the end of the day, Cub fans want more than Wrigley Field. They want a championship team.
And the stakes are high. If the Ricketts decide they can't field a winner at Wrigley, they may go elsewhere.
Well, I worry. I'm told by some people who are reasonably close to the Cubs that there is a chance that the Ricketts family would just say, enough, we're just getting out of here. It's not worth it anymore. You know, we'll go to Rosemont, we'll go to Willow Springs, we'll go to some other suburb that wants to open its arms and welcome us and roll over like the Braves have just experienced in Atlanta.
0.1% chance, but anyone that's an odds maker, anyone that is a gambler will tell you that it's still a chance.
What I worry about is that everybody concerned here will sort of kill their golden goose for a few extra eggs.
I think there would be those who would argue that it would make it more profitable. When you have folks in Rosemont who are willing to give you land, allow you to build a ballpark that should function the way a modern ballpark does, it would give them profitability.
So fans likely have to get on board with changes to Wrigley, but that isn't necessarily anything new.
We speak about the ballpark as this place that in 1914 was created, and it was perfect. It had ivy and outfield walls. Well, that's the furthest thing from the truth. The ballpark has changed, it has grown, it has morphed. Embrace that change.
The biggest holdup has come from a factor outside the park, the rooftops across the street.
I wish that the Cubs had not made a deal with the rooftop owners, because right now that's what's holding up their ability to renovate their own property.
That contract runs through 2023. The rooftops sell tickets to fans, and the Cubs earn 17% of the revenue. But the rooftop owners have threatened to sue if a jumbotron and new advertising block their precious views.
I don't think they should be granted any particular rights to steal and resell someone else's product. I feel bad for the administration in that regard.
Like most debates in Chicago, it likely comes down to politics.
To be candid, this is a Cub town, but the politicians generally have been Sox fans. No one wants to give anything to the Cubs because the Cubs, since the beginning, have represented that North Side establishment.
We've got democracy essentially being bought by the rooftop owners now, contributing so much money towards the alderman, who then has to balance out the needs of those incredibly wealthy donors with the needs of the rest of his ward.
In late May, Ricketts shared a video on the Cubs website in which he said he was done negotiating with the rooftop owners, and that it was time to move ahead with the renovation plans.
I have to put the team and the fans first. So today, we are going forward with our original plan.
But lawsuits could keep the future of the National League's oldest park uncertain. The centennial celebration may have come at a crossroads for the franchise, but for many fans, at least it was a celebration. It's probably a welcome distraction from the usual routine of waiting and hoping.
We have a lot of hope for our new young team.
I believe blue. That's all I can say is I believe blue.
It's just been a shame because you keep thinking, well, they're going to do it this time, and sadly they weren't able to. But I just keep thinking if they stay focused and move forward, they will do it. Someday, they've got to do it.
It would mean everything to me. I will, when the Cubs win the World Series, I will come to opening day the next year and never ever come back. Just want to win it one time. That is it.
And I hope I live to be there and cheer them on.
This year is the year, baby.
This could be the year.
We'll wait and see.